Are we going? Good morning, everybody. All right. Um, I hope you're all having a wonderful day. I'm not sure how long I can keep this contraption on my head because it's really small. I think they made it for children, not for adults. So maybe you can guess where we're going when we're done with this video today. Um, we have one shot this week at going before our passes expire, and so we're gonna head on up there after our video this morning. But anyways, I hope y'all have had a wonderful weekend. I actually have been finding this really weird, like really weird flu thing, fever since last Wednesday, and finally feeling better. And of the secret sale that's not so secret anymore. I can't do this. It's really heavy. It's made for little people. It's not made for my head. In fact, I still don't have mouse ears, and we've had passes to Disneyland for like 3 years. I think I need mouse ears that say "Boss Lady" or something on them. Anyway, so again, I haven't done any maintenance, and so if you would like to take advantage of our secret sale, it is still up. And it will probably be up until Wednesday at this point, because, like I said, I'm running off to play after we're done with this video, so I won't have time to take it down then. And tomorrow's our co-op day, and I'm usually not good for much else after co-op. So Wednesday is probably going to be the day that I take it down. So really, if you want to, I was thinking about this last night. If you really want the program for as low as 250, you really should think about finding 10 people. And I think that if you went on some of the groups that you're on and you said, hey, there are 10 people over here that want to, five people from here and five people from there. And then all you have to just let me know who they all are. And I'll go from there. I'll like take over from there. But anyways, I just wanted to remind you that it's still there. And we'll probably do the 10 people thing all through the summer. But the regular, like the 350 sales, probably going to go off by Wednesday. And I'm trying to decide what to put on sale next. And because I know that people are going to be planning and stuff. So I don't have any ideas right now. If anybody has any ideas on what they'd like to see go on sale next, please let me know or put it in the comments here. Either works. So are we doing good everywhere, Donnie? We're doing good on YouTube and good here. I know we're doing good in Facebook. I see everybody here. Okay. Oh, very good. Okay. So today's topic is a hot one. I get this a lot of questions, often from moms who've got kids that have been like picked up reading on their own, or maybe they're coming to Waldorf from another method. They taught their child to read. And so I get either moms that are like kind of stressed out about it and trying to sort out, I did this and I know I shouldn't have done this and I feel really bad. And I have to say, it's okay, it's not a big deal. We're going to work through it and you're here now. And, or there's kids that sometimes just pick up reading. I was thinking about out of my five, Harry was reading before he was in first grade. He was like 5.5, and he just did it. And so I've been there. What it means though in Waldorf is that you do not jump ahead. That doesn't mean your child does not need first grade. So, first grade content has not a whole lot to do with reading. Reading is one component. And that's the thing that I spend a lot of time helping moms understand is that reading is one component. And of that one component, you can say your child's been reading for a couple of years and they are just not going to want to go through the letters again. Totally fine. Totally fine. Now, some people would say, oh, you should go through the letters, you should experience them. And, I think that you could probably go down that road with some children. But I think if you have a pretty choleric child or even a pretty sanguine child, they're not going to want to go down the letter road. So, what you do instead is you definitely work on all of the fairy tales. You do the fairy tales exactly the same as if you were introducing the letters. You want to make sure you bring in all the content because again, that's the content for first grade is fairy tales, and that's what we're trying to bring them. So it doesn't mean we're jumping them ahead to second grade or third grade. I mean, I think that's one of the beauties of Waldorf is that it's not based on academic accomplishment. that does not um, that does not move you forward or backward in the Waldorf curriculum. What does is the content for the age. So we're looking at a child that is 6, almost 7, or a child that is 7 going into first grade. And regardless of whether or not they're reading, they're on the same path as a child that isn't. And so, what you would be focusing on is again, you would be focusing on those fairy tales. You're focusing on the things that they probably don't know, um, knitting, painting, drawing with block crayons, modeling, all of those other pieces, music, foreign language, all of those other pieces that are often forgotten. Like I said, moms will often come to me and go, "Well, my child's reading already. I should just move on to second grade." And so again, it's an understanding that the curriculum is based on the age. So your child just needs the content of the curriculum. It doesn't matter whether or not the letters are part of it. I would say that if you have a melancholy or phlegmatic child that is cozy and would like to go through the letters again, it's a fun way to experience the letters. So even if they're reading, I don't think they'll care. But I do think if you have a more bossy child, they're going to not stand for it. So it's okay. Just move forward from it and really just experience the fairy tales, experience all of the art, experience learning how to play the flute, experience the knitting, experience all the other handwork that you can do. There's so much that you can do that doesn't have anything to do with reading, like so much. Reading is one small component of grade one, and actually, a lot of kids don't learn how to read in grade one in a school. That's not even their goal. At home, that's my goal. That's my goal when I'm working with families. Usually, that's our goal. Our goal is that by December or so, or January, we're working on accomplishing that, or at least getting you to that point. But that's really not a goal in the schools. In the school, they just kind of they don't worry about it until second or third grade, even. And so, to say that it's an objective of first grade is not necessarily true, but but of course it is for most people would like that to be. So I don't want you to think that if you have a child that's reading that means that it means anything except for that they already cracked that code. And I think that makes your job a little bit easier. So go ahead and have fun doing the other stuff in first grade. There's so much good stuff. There's so much good stuff. We're getting ready to start first grade with our fifth child and last child, and that's a little bit bittersweet, but I'm really excited. It's one of my favorite grades to teach. We're going to have a lot of fun. Those fairy tales are fun. I know people really don't like the fairy tales, and some people want to change them up. And regardless, have fun with first grade. First grade is a fun time. It's a time of exploring for them. They're coming into their own. There's going to be this time, if there hasn't already been, there was for me, it's been about a month or so when I looked at Soraya and all of a sudden she was very different. And that's that bittersweet place, but it's also a very amazing place because they're coming into their own and they feel here, really here. They're more grounded. They're not so dreamy. They're sort of ready to come into this space and they're ready to learn and super excited about it. So I really hope that if you have a child that's reading or you're really concerned about, coming into first grade with Waldorf, you're coming from another method, or, you maybe your child was in public school and you're bringing them home, regardless of what it is, please take heart. It's not a big deal. It will be fine. Your child will not be bored. I promise they will not be bored. If you follow the curriculum and you do all of the pieces to it, your child will not be bored. Your butt will be kicked, and you will do your planning and everything else, and you will learn and they will learn, and it will be a beautiful experience for you both. So I think that's all. I don't. Does anybody have any questions? I know we have about 10 viewers or so on Facebook. Does anybody have questions or comments or thoughts? And I was thinking about out of our five, like I said, Harry read before first grade. Jacob, Jacob did not. Eleanor did not. And Samuel did not. And Soraya has been trying to play with letters since we did this soft start for her, but nope, we're gonna do it again. And I kind of suspected that. So Thea says, "My that's my daughter now. I looked at her yesterday, had a tear." So I was like, "Oh no, it's the last one," and it kind of happens, and then you go, "What the heck?" Um, she's 7 and looks and acts so different. Oh, thank you. Did you like my? I don't know. I don't know how people wear this. It's for adults. Oh my gosh. Eric wears this sometimes when we're there. We can find him really easily because he has Star Wars ships on his head. Yeah. Anyway, it's heavy. It's heavy. I'm not wearing it. Can't do it. Sorry. It's heavy. It has battery on the top. Yeah. Anyway. So I hope you guys have a wonderful week. Anything else up from over there? Oh, thank you. You're so sweet. Just comments. Okay. Does anybody have any questions or comments here on the Facebook thread? My first grader, Thea says, my first grader is at a third grade reading level, and I'm super lucky because my fourth grader is dyslexic. You know what? And you probably have a little PTSD about that. I would think. I have a dear friend who has 4 kids, and the 2 oldest have dyslexia. And she said to me yesterday, she's like, "Oh, so you got to come and evaluate the little one." And I was like, "Okay," because not that I do dyslexia evaluations, but she's like got some PTSD about it. She's a little stressed that he's going to go down the same road, and because she's been there and stressed out, she doesn't know what normal looks like, and so yeah, I think that it's really easy to get stressed out. And I want to say I have dyslexia, and it's all good. It sorts itself out, and we get older and we figure it out, and I'm a child of the '70s, so there was not I was not like diagnosed with dyslexia until I was like 18 years old. And it came in a lot of different forms, and so it's just kind of interesting to me. I think we stress about it a lot, and now I think that so many people know about it, and that I think a lot of people are looking for it, and I don't want to speak out of turn. I also don't. I also get a little bit worried that people diagnose too fast, and so following these methods, but I think that it is a little balm to your soul when you have one that's struggling and then one that comes through that whew, isn't struggling. So let's see. Christy Lynn says, okay, hold on one second. Christy Lynn says, um, what about the saying kids develop so much faster these days? I only have one and she's 6, and so I can't relate to children from the past. Um, I think that kids are developing, their bodies are developing faster. I don't think that that changes the soul level of what they're getting. I still would never put a child that is not 6 going on 7, like 7 before mid-year or so ish. By March usually is what my cutoff is. Um, then I still wouldn't put them in first grade. I think that we're talking about the content of the material and how it reaches them and developmentally, and I think that um, that's not changed. That's not changed. Yes, absolutely. So knitting gets crocheting is great. Crocheting is great. We do crocheting in third grade, but there's this crossing the midline that happens with knitting that does not happen with crocheting. Knitting is necessary. So, my question to you would be, are you knitting? And if you're not knitting, then you need to teach yourself so that you can teach your child. Your first grader needs to knit. And what I would recommend is that you knit before main lesson. It always helps main lesson. We always do handwork before main lesson because it helps, especially in those years where we're trying to read. It really helps bring reading along faster. And I discovered it with Samuel. I wish I had discovered it 3 children ago. And so in fact, I went to a retreat for Waldorf handwork teachers a couple of years back, and handwork teachers kind of they don't always, when you're not a main lesson teacher in a Waldorf school, they don't always get the same perks that all of the other teachers get. And so I had just made the comment that we had discovered for ourselves that doing handwork first was like amazing. Like handwork should be the first thing of the day. And they all laughed because they were like, there's no way that our school is going to allow that. But they all agreed that doing handwork first thing in the day beats doing it at 2 or 3 in the afternoon when a child is tired. But doing handwork first, and again, especially knitting in first and second grade, is so good for helping get the both sides of their brain working together. And I have to say, like after the stroke that I had, I when we went, so I had like 14,000 MRIs. I had two in the hospital, and then one like 6 weeks after, and then one 6 weeks after that. And the one that I had, so there was the baselines that they did in the hospital, and then I had this one 6 weeks after. And my the neurosurgeon said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Knitting." That's- he said, "It's like your brain is knitting itself back together." And it like the damage that had shown from the baseline that I had in the hospital, because like I said, I had two in the hospital. From there to 6 weeks after, and then 6 weeks after that, the changes he said were phenomenal because it was like he could tell my brain was really knitting itself back together. So I did a lot of knitting after my stroke, a lot of bad knitting, but knitting nonetheless. It was when I when I look at some of those patterns, there was a lot of mistakes. Are there any more questions on that side?
She says, on this topic of handwork, now that we're doing a bit more of a traditional curriculum for some of my children, would you recommend still doing handwork before lessons?
Yes,
She says that to me.
yes, yes, I would. Yes, I would. I would absolutely always, no matter, like, even if you were doing classical conversations or Charlotte Mason or anything else, I would still do handwork first. I think that it will help you overall. Um, we've always done that. So, Christy Lynn asks again, do you find that children are becoming ready faster than children in Steiner's age? If so, does the effect does that affect the application of the curriculum? I don't believe that they're becoming ready faster. I don't. And with that, like I had somebody ask me the other day, "Oh, my 5-year-old's lost a tooth. Does that mean that they're ready to read?" And I said, "No, I have not met a 5-year-old yet that is ready to be like taken down that path. That doesn't mean that they may not uncover it themselves, of course. And I've always said that to all of my children. If you teach yourself, great. I will help you with books, and but right now my job is to read to you. My job is to, sort of keep you in this place and help your imagination grow and all of those things. So I don't think that. I don't think that the children are becoming ready faster. I think that what we're doing is we have a culture that's pushing children faster. And so we like to think that they're ready faster, and they're not. I really don't believe it. I work with thousands of children a year, and I don't believe that. I in that would be in working through moms, working through kids in our co-ops, working with my own children. I don't believe that at all. I think that we are trying to, as a culture, push children through faster, and I think that when we do that, we end up with seeing what we want to see. And I think that really, when we live in a time that where we have children that are trying to grow up so fast, slow them down. have the rest of their lives to read. That's why I go, nowhere else in our life, with the exception of like potty training, do we go, hurry. It's not like they're gonna it's not like they're gonna go off to college and not know how to read. It's there's this time in their life where they're having fun, and and humans are the only animal that stops having fun after childhood. And so animals still have fun after childhood. So we really need to help keep that alive and instill that. So no, I don't believe that. I don't believe that at all. I do believe, I will say, I think that children are picking things up more because, say, like in Steiner's time, we're talking about, there were still a lot of people that had farm life. There were not so many street signs. And if you want to think about his era, there weren't a ton of street signs everywhere. So there weren't things that were prompting children like they are now. Um, there weren't the distractions of media that there are now. But I absolutely don't believe that it should change the way we apply the curriculum. I don't. I don't at all. Okay, let's see. Noelle says, "What if your almost 7-year-old, June 6th, asks to learn to read?" Okay, well, I would June 6th. I'll sit down. I would sit down. It depends. Part of me would be like, "Oh my gosh, do you realize that that's a lot of planning?" But you might grab a book like the book that we use for Soraya, and actually don't have it here. It's on the shelf on the other side. It's the Reg Down book. That's the alphabet, and it's a fun trip through the alphabet. So maybe you work on that through the summer and still do your first grade planning for the fall. That's
Um,
really what I would do.
are there any items you would feel are necessary for the circle time in first grade? I'm setting up a new circle time area soon in our new homeschool room, and we have a lot more room.
Bean bags, um, definitely bean bags. Mostly bean bags. You're tossing bean bags back and forth, and a lot of kids are not wanting to do circle time anymore by first grade. Some of them, like the really sweet ones, are. I was thinking about my rowdy boys. They were like, "Are you kidding, lady? This is for babies." So depending on where your kids are, but I that's how I always kept them drawn in. We always did a lot of like beanbag work in circle time, and so that kept it anchored. You could also, if it's just that child or just first graders, you could do your story then too. Okay, let's see. I'm looking at. So, sorry, the rest of Noelle's question is, I'll go ahead and tell her that we're starting first grade in the fall and she'll learn to read and a lot of other fun stuff. Then she kind of shrugged her shoulders and looked a little disappointed. Yeah, so I would do that book that I just mentioned. It's the one by Reg Down. What's it called? We've used it for the last
Oh,
the alphabet book.
yeah,
I
then
think it's called the
I
alphabet
could
book
grab it
by
really
Reg
quick.
Down. No, I think if you look up Reg Down, you'll find it. And I think it's a fun I think it's a fun way to just go through the letters. That's what I would do through the summer and still do your planning. Still do your planning. Let's see. Wendy says, I too have a rising fourth grader who is not reading, and I suspect dyslexia, sanguine through and through. Yeah. Rising first grader who I suspect will read right away. So I predict more pouting and jealousy from Big Sis. Not looking forward to that. So my question with the Wendy, with the older child, the one that you suspect is dyslexia. Um, there's I know there's all this testing and stuff that they do now, but my question for you would be: have you watched our video on reading and applied those things? And by that, I would say every single day. Get that fourth grader reading faster. And actually, sometimes a little competition is good, unless there's truly something going on, like just unless she's truly dyslexic, and then of course that's going to be frustrating to her. But I know there's a lot of programs. I know that my one friend uses a Spartan program. There's other programs that you can use for dyslexia, but what I found was really interesting from what I could gather that she was telling me, a whole lot different than what I suggest you do, which is just sit with your child every day and read. And so, if you have any questions about that, shout at me and we can talk about it. Okay, that was a lot of comments all of a sudden. I thought we were done. And then we had a bunch of comments. Anybody else have any questions? Anything else over there?
Nope.
I think we're done.
Okay. Yeah.
I hope you guys have a lovely week. And I'll be back next week, but I cannot remember what the topic is. Actually, nope. There's like 4 or 5 things that are coming up, and I can't remember what next week's topic is. But if you look in the events, you will be able to catch us next Monday. We do a video every Monday.
We have a local friend
Oh,
who does, and he said he could help my son with some things. What project would you recommend?
who does what? Who does woodworking?
I think so.
Like for the first grader, make a spoon. Sam made a spoon.
Yeah.
A spoon is a good thing to make. Usually they start with like a block of wood and they chip
Oh, my
away.
son's in fourth grade.
Oh, in fourth grade. Make a spoon. I think Sam was in fourth grade when he made his spoon, wasn't
Yeah,
he?
he was.
Yeah. So no, the spoon is, and we use the spoon all the time as this nice, big, heavy wooden spoon. And in fact, the woodworking teacher from San Diego Waldorf taught him how to make it. And that was pretty cool. Um, oh wait, Viviana says, "I love these live chats. We are just preparing to go into first grade in September. We are moving. How can I create a small school space in a small house?" I don't think you could live in a smaller space than we do. We live in 800 square feet. um, well, maybe you can. Obviously, there are smaller spaces out there, but so we don't have a chalkboard. We haven't had a chalkboard that we've used really since we moved to California. We've got some smaller chalkboards that we've used here and there. This year, I'm going to attempt the blackboard paper. I'm going to attempt it. I'm going to play with it this summer. I just like the idea of having everything in one space. But it may end up that I'm just using big sketch paper to do all of her drawings on, all my prop drawings. So, and by big sketch paper, I mean like this giant baby. This is, this is, what size are you? It's just big. Oh, it's 11 by 14. And so I may use that, but I am, like I said, I'm going to play with chalks on the blackboard paper. Just because I like the chalks and I miss the chalkboard. Um, when we lived, I think my favorite chalkboard was the Midvale house. When I painted, my landlord was not happy with me. I painted a whole wall chalkboard, but it was beautiful. I had 4 main lessons at that time, and I had space for everybody's main lesson on the chalkboard. It was great. But no, as far as doing things in a small house, I would do that. I would map out best places to walk, and so like we have a set route that we walk. That's our 1 mile walk, and so that we can do that several times a day, and so I would definitely do that, and really, I don't think you should worry about being in a small space. We have I like these bookcases from IKEA. I forget what they're called. They used to be called Expedat, but they're not called that anymore. But I like them because they can fit in a lot of places. Like this one is a room divider, divides this part of the living room from the dining room, and so I like them because like each kid has a cubby on the back there that you can't see because it's butted up against this one. So that way everybody has like their own space to keep all their stuff in, and it has to stay clean. I make them keep it clean.
Prairie Pioneer Schoolhouse says we lived in a 400 square foot home. And we used our table on the patio for lessons, and we have a cupboard our TV was on. And inside the cupboard, we kept all of our homeschool items with 5 kids.
Yeah,
We
holy
we have a huge chalkboard too. Great suggestions, Melissa.
wow. That makes me think of at where all the Pioneer houses are at Pioneer Park in Salt Lake City, and there's the one
Yeah, this
house.
is the place.
Yeah, this is the place. There's this one house where it says something about so and so lived here with 11 children. And I was like, what the heck? How did they do that? I don't know.
Oh, from back in the pioneer days.
Yes, but there was this joke or something. It said on the side of the house he had to walk outside in order to think because it was too loud. Anyway,
So they don't live there anymore.
Oh, okay. Sorry. Anyway, just made me think of that. Yeah, Casey says we school at the table. We do too. I mean, I have not had a separate schoolroom since we lived in Idaho Falls. Even when we lived
Yeah.
in Rexburg, we schooled in the kitchen. I was trying to think of the last time we had a schoolroom. It was Idaho Falls. And that was only because we converted our living room into the schoolroom because that's where everybody was all the time. So, yeah. And then before that, I guess when the big kids were little, I had a schoolroom. But you know what? I don't think you need anything special. I honestly don't. We use the kitchen table. Like I said, kids have these cubbies, and I keep everything there. I also, that you can't see, I have this giant cabinet from IKEA. It's called the Pax. It's like behind the camera, and it's really deep one, that like the 18-inch deep one, and it hides everything. I
It's
keep.
2 feet.
Is it 2 feet deep? It's really big,
Yeah.
and it has all of our, like all the grades, because we've taught all the grades. Has all of the planning, because I have everybody sorted out by grade then. So all these books behind me, and then we have a cabinet that's got all of the grades in it, and I keep them separated with magazine files. I find that really helpful. I put everything for one grade in the magazine file, and then even when I'm not teaching it, it's just in the cabinet. And then when it's ready, when I am ready to do planning for that grade, it'll come out of the cabinet and be on the shelf for that year. And the one that was on the shelf goes back in the cabinet. Let's see. Denise says, my son taught himself to read. Last summer, he just finished first grade and he chose some chapter books he wants to read this summer. We let it come to him naturally and didn't feel like he should be, oops, held, oops, held back because he enjoys it. He had a good first grade and enjoys working with word puzzles. If he wasn't already, we wouldn't have batted an eye and just let him continue into first grade to learn words from his lessons in his Waldorf class. It's not a race. You are so right. It is not a race. I think it's so easy to get into that place. Especially, I think if you are like, I'm really stubborn. So there was nothing my mother was going to say to me that was going to deter me, just because I'm just stubborn. And so there was never a period of time for me that with my mother where her opinion, I love her. In fact, if you're watching, Mom, hi. Where her opinion though about homeschooling um, was going to sway me ever, and and she knew that, and I think that while in the beginning she was not a huge in the beginning she was kind of like, I don't know so much about this, but now she's my biggest fan. Like, she's a biggest supporter of what we do, not just our business, but like how we raise our children and the homeschooling that we've done. And um and so I think that if you have a parent that's not supportive, or you have friends, honestly, I think you got to pull on your big girl panties and you have to go, this is my kid. I'm raising my kid the way I want, and not be so stressed out about what friends think and what about the rest of your family might think about your child reading in first grade or not reading until later or anything like that. I think we have to remember that we have stewardship over them, that your aunt doesn't have stewardship over them, your mother-in-law doesn't have stewardship over them, your friend doesn't have stewardship over them. You do. God gave this child to you, not to them. So it's your job to say, this is what I think is right. And so I think that we live in this culture where we think that we have to agree with each other all the time, and that's a lie. It's not necessary. And so I think your mom had a little, she Eric's mom was a little like, I don't know about this homeschooling thing. But again, it was like not up for debate. It's and part of that is just because I don't allow that to be
I
up for
mean,
debate. It-
over the years, she she got she felt like it didn't do my sister a service to be
right,
in public school, and she understood more when she realized that there was abusive situations that my
right,
sister
right,
dealt
right.
with
And
in
his sister
school.
really struggled with, right.
She didn't know like the full extent of it till later on.
But I think that we, as homeschoolers, we're often trying to prove ourselves, and I think we have to get out of that mindset, and realize that it isn't a race, and that these are our children, not their children. And I never would have had somebody's comments deter me from breastfeeding, or from natural childbirth, or from how I ate, or anything like that. So why would I allow that for how I'm schooling? Like, that's just silly. So, like I said, I would put on your big girl pants, the ones that are steel, and say, "So sorry, I'm in charge." Now, when it comes to like your partner and things like that, then of course, you want to talk about, um, and I know this is morphing a little more into just reading in general and school in general, but of course you want to stay on the same path as your partner. You want to be engaged in this path together. And so I know what ends up happening is by about December of first grade, a lot of dads are like, why isn't our child reading it? And so, that's where it's super important that you lay out for dad, like, here's the path. This is what I'm doing. This is what we're doing every day. Where I'm going to introduce all of these letters. And then when we get to the vowels, then we're going to start reading. So the best thing you can do is, if you want to help, go, "Oh, what letters did you learn this week?" Not, "I can't believe you're not reading." So there's a lot of ways to be like really supportive of your partner when your partner's doing the teaching. And that is one of those, like, what can I do to help, is seriously the sexiest thing that a man can say to a woman. So ask, if you've got a partner that's like wants to know what they can do to help, tell them those things. I think that it's perfectly fine. You don't want to drill a child, but it's perfectly fine to go, "Oh, you learned M this week, and P, can you tell me what sounds they make?" It's totally okay to do that. In fact, I find it really helpful. Maybe also dad reads with them in the evening, or sits when he comes home from work, and sits and reads with them. On the weekend, reads with them. I think that getting dad involved in that process is super important, and it really helps keep conflict at a minimum. So, but a lot of that is communication. Communication. A lot of parents aren't communicating, and that's where the conflict arises. So, anyway, I think we are really done for sure now. I think this is the third time I said we are done. Anybody else have any thoughts? Anything over there? All right, you guys, I'm about to go off and have a little fun today. Even though people are hating on Star Wars right now. If you haven't gone to see Solo and you'd like a funny date movie, go see it. It's funny. Don't listen to everybody who says it is horrible. It's really good. But then I like Star Wars.